All right, we're going to go ahead and begin. Welcome today to an Empowering Teaching Excellence workshop. My name is Janet Anderson, and I'm a Vice Provost over in the Provost's office, and I'm happy to be presenting or introducing you to the speakers today. The topic for our Empowering Teaching Excellence conference today is a more inclusive classroom, teaching every student. We have 3 people who are going to share their knowledge with us, and we are thrilled to have you here, and we're thrilled to have regional campus people joining us as well. To begin with, we'll have Christopher Phillips speak to us. He received his degree in special education and instructional technology here at USU. He has recently returned to campus as the Electronic and Information Technology Accessibility Coordinator in the Center for Innovative Design and Instruction, where he works to create accessible spaces for students with disabilities. He's excited to work with the campus community to help everyone in designing a more welcoming and inclusive environment for all students, and hopefully keep us out of legal trouble along the way. We need that. Then we'll have Kimberly Snow join us. She received her Bachelor of Science degree in Special Ed with severe, profound, and mild moderate endorsements, with an emphasis in communicative disorders and a Master's of Science in Special Ed at Utah State. She taught special ed in the public schools in both Utah and Idaho before coming back to Utah State, where she is currently a clinical instructor lecturer in the Department of Special Ed and Rehab. She has been a clinical instructor for 25 years. She teaches an introductory to special ed, curriculum and assessment courses, as well as coordinates the practicum experience for students going through the significant disability program. And then finally, we'll have David Pruden join us. He's the director of the Disability Resource Center. He worked in the DRC as an ASL interpreter for 4 years as an undergraduate student. After completing his Master's of Social Work in Social Work and spending time as a mental health therapist, David was excited to return to USU in the DRC in 2006. Each year, his office works with over 1,500 USU students to ensure that they have equal access to all aspects of the university. He's currently the vice president of Utah Ahead. And I just have to make one comment about David. He used to be an ASL person in one of my classrooms, and he was much more entertaining than I was. So the students would laugh at him and ignore the instructor. Anyway, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started today on a more inclusive classroom, teaching every student.
Thank you so much.
Now, this isn't a mic that's going to work, but it's for the regional campuses.
Wonderful.
So, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take just a few minutes at the beginning, and then we're going to turn some time over to Kimberly and then David, and I'll wrap some comments up at the end. We're going to talk about accessibility today a little bit and just creating a more welcoming and inclusive classroom. And want to just start off by talking about potentially kind of 3 different motivations that you might have for being here or for just caring about accessibility and what that might mean. And the first one is just that you're a good person and that you care about each and every student and want every student to be successful in your classroom. And hopefully that's at least part of your motivation. There's more and more students attending Utah State who have disabilities, and they just want to have every opportunity that all other students have in your classrooms. That first motivation is just kind of summarized maybe as don't be a jerk. You know, just being a good person and helping people out. The second one, so even if maybe you don't feel like you have time to really care or do what you need to for a specific student, there's still some really good reasons to care about accessibility. Chief among those is just that accessible teaching is good teaching. I think we'll see as we talk today a little bit that if you're working to make your instruction more accessible to students with disabilities, then it's generally going to be also more accessible to every student in your classroom. And there's lots of ways that happens. And then lastly is as far as motivations go, I don't think this is the case for anybody here, just the fact that you're here today, but if there were an instructor, for example, that just didn't care about any of their students, maybe in the classroom for whatever reason, there's still a good reason to care about accessibility, being that it's against the law not to care these days. At least to act like you don't care. We just don't have that option anymore as a campus community, not to think about this or to care about this. It's important, and the law says it's important. So whatever you're here for, if it's maybe you have a student in your classroom right now that needs an accommodation, you want to learn a little bit more about what you can do, or you've heard maybe about lawsuits that are happening in higher education around accessibility and you're nervous about that. Whatever the reason is, we're glad you're here and we hope we'll have something for you. There's already lots of incredible resources on campus to help you out as instructors in doing this type of a thing. David in his office with the Disability Resource Center that he'll talk about a little bit. And we've had some incredible instructors already taking time and spending time and energy and effort to figure this stuff out. Kimberly is a great example of that, and we'll just turn the time over to her now to share a little bit about her experiences.
All right, so as I said, I'm Kimberly Snow, and I do teach in the Special Education and Rehabilitation Department, and I have been there over 25 years. In fact, Christopher was one of my students a while back, so that dates me a little bit. But I'm glad here to be here and talk about including all students with disabilities in your classrooms, and how do you educate all students? It doesn't matter if they have a disability or not, making our courses accessible is going to be valuable for all of our students. More students with disabilities than ever before are attending the university settings, and that's an exciting place to be in. And researchers consistently tell us that by having our students attend a post-education experience, that their employment's going to be better, their wages are going to be better and higher, and the independency of their living. Their independent living is going to be so much better, and we need to consider the quality of life of all students as we go ahead and teach about teach all of our students in our classes and courses, whether they have a disability or not. Here's a graph of the data that says the percentage of students that are attending the university. Look at the bottom one. For the 4-year, 6.7% of students with intellectual disabilities are attending college. And I'll talk in a minute about Utah State. And this is over the country. So we feel like Utah State's even a little bit higher because of the programs that we have in place at Utah State. You can see multiple disabilities, 7.4%. Autism, 17.4% that are attending the 4-year. And that's not talking about the vocational and the 2-year programs where 50% of our students that are identified as having a disability are attending post-secondary education. They'll be in our classrooms. Young adults with disabilities want to have that typical experience that their peers without disabilities have. Why wouldn't they want that? That independent living, leaving their home, and just hanging out with peers, and going to classes and improving themselves. So young adults, they want that typical experience that their peers do not, that their peers are having. As I said, the movement towards having more students with disabilities, and specifically intellectual disabilities, that's a newer term. If you're not familiar with that, the older term is mental retardation, which we don't use anymore. We use intellectual disabilities. But here on campus since 2012, if you're familiar or not with this, we've had a program started through our department with Dr. Morgan and Dr. Schultz and some other people, where students with intellectual disabilities are on campus today. So I'm going to show you this video and let them tell you a little bit about their experience and how important they feel it is to be here on campus.
I had a dream that I wanted to go to college just like my other friends that graduated with me.
I want to picture myself as an elementary school teacher in whatever state I end up in.
I want to put a choir together.
I want to work with children with special needs in a daycare setting.
College can be tough for everyone because obviously we're all here to learn, but learning takes time. During Exelevate, I kind of learned how to take things seriously. Just getting all the assignments done on time.
Well, I did expect college to be difficult, and it is.
Aggies Elevated is a program for kids with intellectual disabilities who want to go to college. It gives them a chance to be independent.
The type of skills that I'm learning right now is how to communicate. Because that's one of my biggest feelings right now is to communicate.
It's challenged me very much so. I've noticed that my reading has improved quite a bit.
My teachers are awesome. My teachers are really awesome. Learning how to deal with my disability, how to stay on task and get things done in a certain amount of time.
When I graduate from Aggies Elevated, I actually want to come back and get my bachelor's in art. It's just one of the best programs out there. You just got to work hard.
I'm really proud that I made the choice to come here.
I really wanted to go to college and it came true.
Go Aggies, right, for starting this. This is awesome. Look at these students where in the past they would not have had this experience at all to come to a university. I'm in college. They're so excited. They're taking courses. Some of you here may have these students in some of your courses. They go to ball games. They walk around campus. These students, excuse me, are on campus right now. You'll be able to see them going and to their classes and just, you know, navigating and having the whole college experience. It's just incredible, and I'm pretty excited about that program. We may think that we won't have students with disabilities in our university classes or courses. Here is a list of students or disabilities that have been represented in the courses I teach. This one, most of these students come in my Special Ed 4000 course, but I've had all of these. Seizures, students who are blind, visual impairment, hearing impairment, deaf, ADHD, autism. I have a student with autism in my course now, and we have a student with autism in our program. Auditory processing disorder, learning disabilities, and some of our students aren't even disclosing their disabilities to us as instructors, and so we may not know that they have a disability. And then that's not even counting our students who have a Section 504 plan where they need accommodations because they have an impairment, a physical or mental impairment that affects a major life activity. And they are also receiving services and have disabilities in our classroom. We need to make sure that they are having access to all of the resources that we provide. We give all kinds of resources to our students, but there's some of our students that really can't quite grasp those. I have something to show you that illustrates that point.
Attention shoppers, remember there's a plug-in sale on aisle 1.
So that's just a silly little demonstration of, you know, we tease our students that need access to our resources. We've got all these resources on Canvas and in our class and during our lectures. And some of these students just can't quite grasp those resources because they're not accessible to them. They're reaching and trying really hard to understand what we're teaching in our courses, but they can't quite reach all of those resources that are important for them to reach to be successful in the courses that we teach. So, with that being said, I'm just looking at time. there are students on campus today that have spoken out about this. I've decided to show this video. It's old. You'll see the computers are really old. But the point is, these students, in fact, a couple of the students in this video are on campus today and have attended my course. So I want to show this because they're going to let you know about the frustrations they experience.
When I was 14, I lost my sight, and I just remember I was going, like, surfing the web, and it was just so much easier. Like, I like to get on it so much more, and now it's just so frustrating because you can't see the graphics and, like, what's going on sometimes, and it's just frustrating.
I use the internet connected to school subjects quite often, and I use it for projects and tests. But also one of my most recent projects, the only way I could get it done was to go to google.com. All the other recommended websites were not very accessible.
Without captions, it's hard to understand what they're doing. I just have to try and make it up. With captions, I know exactly what's going on. I know the specifics of what they're talking about.
It's kind of hard to be required to do something and not be able to do it, and you have to find somebody else to come and help you do it on their own time.
And I can't navigate by myself. And I like to be independent. It gives me a feeling of pride. And it is also slower if somebody needs to help me, which they would.
I love his statement. It gives me that feeling of pride. And if not, and if they don't have access to the resources, they have to go out and figure out how to find those resources and ask other people for help. But they want to be independent. Even though there's assistance out that David's going to talk to you about in a bit, there's assistance out there, but there's that feeling of pride that they need to have. So as far as what I do in my courses, and you may do something a little different, but I'm just sharing with you 5 different things that I consider with all of my courses to make it so that materials are accessible for all students and that they all have a good experience in my class. So the first one is accessibility. I do make sure that my materials, my resources are accessible to students. They can get to those pieces of information. They're not doing that little reaching to the top shelf trying to figure it out. But they do have access to all of the materials. I'm going to put a little plug in for this. This is a whole seminar all by itself, right? About making our Word documents, our PowerPoints, our Excel, all of those, making those accessible. There's specific ways to do that. And some of you may already be making those materials available to the students by making these pieces accessible. I had to go through a learning process for this. If some of you are already tech savvy or have already started moving towards this, the only thing I'm going to point out to you, one, is to know that at some point we all need to make our Word documents accessible, our PowerPoints, our PDFs. They've got to be accessible. Our students, it's the law, our students need to have access to the materials. So know that that's out there, that you need to start thinking about it. Those of you who are, like I said, a little more tech savvy, there's cheat sheets for you that you can use, and it will be a step-by-step process on how you make your materials accessible. The awesome thing about this is, before I show you the cheat sheets, some of them are developed here. We've got the resource on campus. Dr. Cindy Rowland and her team are part of WebAIM, which talks about making your web pages accessible. But they're also part of NCDAE. Anyway, they're also part of that, and that's where these cheat sheets have come from. So let me just show you what some of these cheat sheets would look like. They just walk you through step by step on what's important about making those documents accessible. So this one's creating accessibility for Microsoft Word. Here's what it looks like for PDF conversions. Creating accessibility in, I can't read up there. PowerPoint, I'm sorry, I can't read up there. Accessibility in PDF documents. So know that you need to start thinking about how you're going to make all of those accessible. There's resources on campus to help you out with that, and there's cheat sheets you can use if you feel like you can start that process. I've started that process and have created, hopefully most or all of my documents are accessible. But I'll talk about how you do that in just one second. The next thing is closed captioning. They mentioned really briefly in the closed captioning, the video regarding closed captioning. So let me just give you an illustration about this. This is a fun little cartoon that if you get it, it's fun, but I have a better demonstration for you. This is closed captioning fail. This is kind of stuff, but I was wondering if you could join in nuclear plants died. That's the closed captioning that came with this cartoon because the computer failed. The closed captioning failed. A lot of us will use YouTubes and go, oh, it's got closed captioning there. Let's just use that. But let me illustrate a little bit on what that looks like to students and be thinking as your students' point of view. This is kind of a fun little silly thing, but your students are experiencing these same frustrations.
You might have seen that a lot of YouTube videos have this closed caption option now where you can click the little CC button and it'll display text on the screen for what's being said in the video.
The whole process is automated. A computer listens to the video and displays what it thinks it hears, so the results are always off and usually pretty hilarious.
So, we had this idea to play telephone with YouTube transcriptions.
We wrote a script, filmed it, and uploaded the video to YouTube. Then we downloaded the computer's transcript and used that as our script for round 2.
Then we uploaded that to YouTube to get another script, which became round 3.
We've included the text on the screen to make it easier to understand what we're saying.
Enjoy.
Hey man.
Hey, I've been trying to reach you for the past hour. What have you been doing?
Oh, nothing. I was just polishing my Little League MVP trophy.
Is that a euphemism for something?
No. What are you eating?
A 100% organic free-range black bean vegan burrito.
How can a black bean be free range?
I don't know, Google it. You'll never guess what I'm holding in my hand right now.
An iPhone?
I got tickets to the Lady Gaga Putt-Putt Tournament of Monster Truck Rally.
With the opening act, Little People with Piercings?
Yes!
I can't believe it. You're my best friend, man. When do we go?
Actually, I'm not taking you. I'm taking Elise, my 8-year-old niece.
You mean the niece has been trapped in that goat cheese making cult in southern Venezuela?
Well, it's a llama butter making cult in South Carolina, but yeah.
Well, next time you want to call me and not invite me to something, then just don't call me at all.
Well, next time you don't want to be happy for me when my niece is released from a cult and gets to go with me to an amazing concert, don't answer your phone.
Fine.
Fine.
Hey, man.
Anytime we put that style, what you been doing?
Well, nothing, which is polishing my Little League MVP traffic.
Resenting you for missing into something?
No. What are you eating?
Or 100% organic, free range, but the Indian retail.
Part of my baby free range.
Parallel to collect. Never guess what I'm holding in my hand right now.
Marathon.
Advantages to the Lady Gaga puppet to name us a drug ride.
With the opening at Little People would be a sense-the?
U.S.
But do you believe it? Your best friend. When we get?
Actually, I'm not taking it to get at least 9-year-old niece.
You mean he's been trapped in a goat cheese making calls a network?
Was a lot about meeting. Construct a line of the year.
Without anyone calm united by minister to the so-called me at all.
Well, next time you don't want to be happy for me, woman eases release from a cotton disability to an amazing concert donating your poem.
5.
5.
Hey, man.
Anytime, but that's how we've handled one.
I think what you're talking about, the legality traffic.
Resenting your permissiveness something?
No. What are you reading?
Oracle Organic Free Range, but being in retail.
Part of a difference free range?
Parallel to collect. Never guess what I'm holding in my hand right now.
Marathon.
Advantages of the Lady Gaga puppets and a lot of Iraq.
With the other email, it would be a sense that?
You pets!
But it was a bit. Your best friend. When we get.
Action not taking a dig, at least 9-year-old niece.
You mean he's been trapped in a goat cheese making calls on network.
Was a lot about meeting, construct a line in the year.
Without anyone called, united by minister to the so-called me at all.
Well, next time you know one of the happy for me at a news release from a cotton, this ability to an amazing concert, donating your poll. Facts.
Okay, so that's kind of a fun way to look at it. But can you imagine being a student and you send them to a YouTube video or a video of you presenting and you rely on the computer to interpret what you're saying? It's so frustrating for our students. So we need to write transcripts and or type in the closed captioning. We've been lucky in our department that a few of us have someone that works for us and writes the transcripts, and then we send it over and they help us out with that, because of all the students with disabilities that attend our courses. So that's another part of accessibility. It might sound just a little bit overwhelming, but what you need to do is draw that line in the sand and say, I can't go back to my office right now and make all my Word documents, my PDFs, everything accessible, make sure I have closed captionings, work through it all. You draw that line and say, okay, from now on, when I make a PowerPoint, I will make that accessible. Or if I'm editing some Word document to share with students, I will just edit that and make that accessible. So you've got to commit to go back and figure out, how can I learn to make my materials and resources accessible to students? What's the process? How do I go about that? Because I need to do it. And it's taken me, a year and a half with assistance and help and looking to finally get to a point where I feel good about my courses. But some of the instructors in my department, they're still working on it, and that's okay. It's just drawing that line in the sand and where to start. So that's the first thing that I do is in providing providing all students access to the resources in my course, is making the resources accessible. The next thing that I do to make sure all students are educated in my courses is I get to know the students, and I know you do that too. You get to know the students, you know who they are, and you have a good feel for them. I think we as instructors, we all do that, getting to know the students. But sometimes students will not disclose their disabilities, or they come to us with that paper from the DRC that says, these are the accommodations I need. Generally with that, I go, absolutely, we can make those accommodations for you. That'll be easy, consider it done. But then I continue on with the conversation. Now, is there anything that I can do as an instructor to help you out in the class? What can I do? For example, this semester I have a student with auditory processing disorder. It's not on her accommodations, but she said, could you just please just stand in front of the class and kind of by me so that I can see what you're saying as well as the PowerPoints? I said, yeah, I can do that. Even though I'm a wanderer, I roam all over the place. But for her, sure, I can do that. I can make that accommodation. But I wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't have gotten to know her a little bit or had more conversations with her. The deaf students also, when we have interpreters, quite often I will have students who are deaf in the class, and we have interpreters, will be talked about in just a little bit. But at that point, too, I need to stand in front of the class and make that accommodation so that the deaf student can look at me and see my facial expressions and let them know that I'm answering a question or referring to a point on the PowerPoint so that they can follow along with the lecture a little bit. Of course I can make that accommodation. So getting to know them and their needs and their concerns is very important. Let me give you two other examples. I had a student last year that uses a wheelchair. So the accommodation I made for her, she didn't ask for anything. She really didn't need anything. But every day as she would come in the class, before she came in the class, I would make sure the chair was moved away, that her wheelchair would have access to come in. I moved all the materials off of her table or desk and made sure she could come in and have a free path all the way to her desk. She didn't ask me to do that. I didn't have to do that, but of course I'm going to make sure no one sits in that desk and make it easy for her to come in the class. Another student with physical disabilities that came in my class, he needed a stool to sit on because he couldn't get all the way down to the chair. So DRC actually made sure that the table and stool were there, but they weren't always in the position for him. So I would make sure that I took that higher table and that stool and it was prepared for him when he came into class, so he didn't have to ask someone else to do it for him. So just getting to know their students and have a respect for them, there's simple things that we can do. There's simple things that I have done and I could do. So that's the second part, is just ask. Just ask, what can I do? What can I do to help you? I had I'll share it. I had another student in my class, and her English, her following me and my pace was a little more difficult. So what I did with her is I gave her my actual PowerPoints with my notes for her to follow along, and provided that accommodation for her. She didn't ask for it. I just knew that she was trying really hard to keep up, and I knew that I could provide that accommodation for her. So getting to know your students, they really appreciate it, and especially when they don't come up and have to, not beg, but ask. But a lot of them are independent, and they will let you know, and they'll ask, which is awesome, that they're self-advocates. All right, the next thing I do to make my courses accessible is I include PowerPoint slides for guided notes. I do not make a PDF of my slides. I don't make the copy of the, 3 slides per page or 6 slides per page, make it a PDF and post it up on Canvas. Screen readers can't read that. I put my actual PowerPoint up on Canvas for guided notes. Then our students with visual impairments, they can copy out 1 slide per page. Our just the general students, they can print out 9 per page because they don't need 1 per page. But by having the accessible PowerPoint, or the PowerPoint I have made accessible, students can opt to use their screen readers to read it, and they can decide what's best for them. A lot of times I'll leave my notes on it too. The PowerPoints where you can put the notes, I'll leave my notes on it too so that they can go back and read the PowerPoint if they've missed something. Now I know some of us are a little concerned about doing that because you're putting your PowerPoint up there that they can have access to, and you're a little bit concerned what they're going to do with that PowerPoint, especially if you have your notes with it. That's a judgment call for you and yourself, what you're comfortable with. However, keep in mind that if we put our PowerPoints up, it's more accessible to our students with a variety of disabilities. Not only, our students who are deaf students, our hearing impaired, our intellectual disabilities. It just helps all of our students. Even our students with ADHD, all of that, it helps all of our students. So that's the next thing that I do to make my classes accessible. Okay, number 4, I only have 5, so hang in there. Number 4 is my consistency in organization. On my Canvas, I try to make everything consistent and organized in a certain way so that, again, our students with all kinds of disabilities, ADHD, anxiety, OCD, all of them, they can navigate through my course because it's organized the same way and it's structured the same way. They know what to anticipate. So here's an example of a curriculum course that I teach. All of my home pages look like this. Here's an example of one session. So I have tabs, and I organize them with the same tabs for every single session that I teach. My objective and notes, then here's their reading checks, their applied summaries with everything they need for that, their assignments, and their guided notes, which is my PowerPoint presentation. But what if all of this were written on one page without the tabs? It would be written on one page. One, it'll be all jumbled, and it's not very organized for all of our students. Even our students without disabilities appreciate this. And if you're not familiar with how I went about doing this, how City and I went about doing this, they answered a lot of my questions. But I'm just going to point this out, and it's something you can learn about or address a little bit later. They have this new launch design tool. So if you're not familiar with Canvas as an instructor and what you have access to, they have a design launch tool here that allowed me to put tabs and headings and all of those things. So that's a little bit about my structure. And again, that's a whole different presentation on that. So students really appreciate the structure and the organization that I provide them. Number 5, the very last one, is expect the unexpected. I ran across this last night. I thought, oh, whoops, okay. I saw it. Didn't you guys see it? There we go. So expect, the unexpected. So I saw this cartoon. I thought it was kind of funny. I laughed last night, but it says, when someone tells you to expect the unexpected, slap them in the face and ask them if they expected it. So I saw that, and I thought it was kind of funny. But you do really need to expect the unexpected. And I know I'm talking to you guys as instructors. You know that there's always something unexpected that comes up. And I want to give you a couple examples of students in my class. One student had restless leg syndrome disorder. And so that's not something you would think of as a disability or you'd even think about. But he would sit in the class, and then all of a sudden he'd hit the chair. He's a bigger guy. He had this restless leg. And so he'd kick his backpack, or he'd kick notes and they went flying. Now, I'm startled very easily, and so every time he would do that, I'd go, ah! So, but I had to deal with it, and I got to know my student better, and we just kind of had fun with it, and it was a relaxing situation for us. But I had to expect the unexpected in that situation. There were 2 different times I was teaching a course, and both times I had a student that had a seizure. The first one is my course with 70 students in it, and I noticed up at the top that a girl was laying her head on the desk, or it wasn't a table, so it was a small desk. She was laying there, and another student was, patting her, and she looked at me really confused. Class was almost over, so I said, okay, if everyone will please get up and go out that door, class is over 5 minutes early today. And then immediately I went back there and recognized that it could possibly be a seizure, but not knowing that student, and I started timing it and doing some other things like that, but not knowing that student, I called the paramedics. I didn't know if it was a first-time seizure or whatever. The second experience I had with a student with a seizure is that student actually had autism too. I have a student now in my course that has autism, and a year ago I had another student in my course that had autism. But anyway, she had autism, but that has nothing to do with her seizure. But she was walking down, and she's, holding her nose, and I thought, oh, that's fine. It's a big class. She's got bloody nose or something. So I started my class with an activity. Luckily, it was an activity. They were all working and doing an activity. Someone came in the door and said, there's a girl on the floor, and I don't know what she's shaking. I don't know what to do with her. So I walked out, and I did what I know to do with seizures, because it looked like a seizure, but again, you're not all the way sure. She didn't disclose that to me. We patted her head, I put something behind her head, I timed it, I did all of those things. Again, I didn't know that she had seizures, so I called the paramedics, and then they came, and she was all fine. But I wasn't expecting that day to go into class and have a student end up having a seizure. So that's a little bit of expecting the unexpected. Some of our students with anxiety might all of a sudden get up and walk out the door, and you're going, what's going on? I didn't expect a student to get up and just walk out on the door. Did I offend them? How dare they do that? But they might be having anxiety. Or our students with ADHD sometimes like to get up and walk around just a little bit. So you allow them to stand up in the corner if you understand that they have those types of disabilities. But I didn't expect some of that. Or students who have they have anxiety, and they don't like to sit in crowds. So they always push themselves back, and you're not expecting that, but there it is. So that's the fifth thing that I look at, and making sure that all students, I don't care if they have a disability or not, all students are welcome in my class. I don't care who they are or what disability or no disability, they are welcome in my class. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure things are accessible and it's a good experience for them. And they have the resources to learn that so that their quality of life goes way up. I can do that. I'm going to end it with just a couple slides. This is Einstein himself told his biographer, Carl Selig, that my parents were worried because I started to talk comparatively late, and they consulted a doctor because of it. Einstein's parents once thought that he was mentally retarded, intellectual disability, don't use the R word, due to his odd habits and difficulties in school. If he were born today, Einstein would probably be diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a mild form of autism. Interesting. There's no judgment with our students. We have to set high expectations, which we do for all students. But if we know that they have a disability, don't let that limit what you're going to teach them or what you think they can do. We set high expectations for those students. And last slide is a quote. This is a quote by Mary McAllis. Anyway, she was the president of Ireland. And she says, people with disabilities have abilities too. And that is what this course is all about. Making sure those abilities blossom and shine so that all the dreams you have can come true. I was excited to talk about this today because my heart is so full for these students with disabilities and what they can do and the exciting life that they're having and the experience they're having here on campus and their quality of life just increasing, just like we want our quality of life. But we have the opportunity to do that for them. So, and thank you for letting me come and talk to you guys. I hope there's something helpful in there or something was brought to your mind. So that's it. Thank you.